Welcome to a new lesson. Surface area and volume of a sphere. The surface area of a sphere is defined by a specific formula. It is considered to be 4 circles. That is why it's 4 times pi r squared. Recall that the sphere is a three-dimensional object that has a specific radius. That means this radius is the same for the distance from the center to the out perimeter of the sphere. Let's use this formula to do an example. The diameter of a baseball is approximately 3 inches. Determine the surface area of a baseball to the nearest square inch. The first thing we have to consider is that the diameter is 3 inches. Our formula for the surface area of a sphere does not have in it, but it has the radius. So what we have to do is we have to convert our diameter to radius. And how do we do that? We take the 3 and divide by 2 because diameter is twice the radius. So we get 4 pi times bracket 3/2 squared. And our answer on the calculator, rounded off to the nearest inch, is 28, in this case, inches squared. That is the surface area of the baseball. Please be careful. In your calc, make sure that you put 4 times pi and start with the bracket, 3 divided by 2. Close the bracket and then use the square button. If you don't put the brackets, you will not get the same answer. The second formula is the volume, or the space inside a sphere. It's defined by a formula 4/3 pi r cubed. Notice the cube helps us understand that it is in 3 dimensions. So let's use this formula to find a volume of a sphere. We're going to skip ahead to example 3 and come back to example 2. Determine the volume of a sphere. The sum approximates a sphere with a diameter of 870,000 miles. What is the approximate volume of the sun? So again, since we do not know the diameter, we have to make sure that we find what the... So we know what the diameter, but we don't know what the radius is. We know that the diameter is 870,000. So we have to divide this by 2 to find the radius. Volume of a sphere is 4/3 pi r cubed. And volume, in this case, you just plug it in. 4/3 pi r, which is 870,123 divided by 2. Don't forget to cube it. So volume is 3.447, and on your calculator you get this weird E17. What this means is increment of tens. You get 3.4479 times 10 to the 17, since it's volume, miles cubed. This E17 tells you that it is 10 times to the 17 in scientific notation. So we're going to approximate it as 3.4 times 10 to the 17 miles cubed as our answer. Now we're going to go back to example 2. The surface area of a lacrosse ball is approximately 20 square inches. What is the diameter of the lacrosse ball to the nearest tenth of an inch? In this question, the surface area is already given to us. And the question is, how do we use the surface area to find the diameter of the lacrosse ball? What do we know about this question? We know the formula for the surface area for a sphere is 4 pi r squared. We're going to find the radius first, and then we're going to double it to find the diameter. So let's plug in the information that we have. So we know the surface area is 20, 4 pi times r. Don't forget there's multiplication here between the pi and r. Since there's multiplication, we're going to be cross-multiplying and get rid of the 4 pi from the right-hand side. And how do we do this? It's a good measure to put a bracket around it and divide both sides of the equation by 4 pi. And it's a good idea to put brackets around what you're dividing. When we do this, so this will cancel, and leaving only r squared on one side. The next step is square rooting it. Keep the brackets. We're going to square root both sides of the equation. This means that r is going to be equal to the square root on your calculator over 4 pi. Now notice I'm still keeping the bracket. What your calculator should look like is the square root, bracket, 20 divided by another bracket, 4 pi, and close brackets. If you do not put the bracket with 4 pi, then your calculator will do the following. Your calculator will divide by 4 and then only multiply by pi. It will do this order, and you will get a wrong answer. So make sure you put this bracket. And your answer will turn into 1.3 rounded off to the nearest inch. The last thing we have to do is find the diameter. So we're going to double it. So we're going to multiply this by 2. And our diameter is going to be 2.6 inches. Let's do our last question, example 4. A hemisphere has a radius of 8 centimeters. What is the surface area of the hemisphere to the nearest tenth of a square centimeter? And then, what is the volume of the hemisphere to the nearest tenth of a cubic centimeter? Now, a hemisphere, notice the keyword hemi, means half of a sphere. However, half of a sphere does not mean that it's half of the surface area of a regular sphere. And the reason for it is because there's a brand new surface area created when you cut the sphere in half. This surface area is this circle in the middle. So in addition to half of the surface area, there's one more piece of surface area that we have to include. That is why the surface area of a hemisphere is 4 pi r squared divided by 2, because there's half of it, but there's also one more. And because this green area looks like a circle, it is a circle. It's pi r squared. In other words, the new formula will be 2 pi r squared plus pi r squared, which turns into a new formula, 3 pi r squared for a surface area of a half or hemisphere. So we're going to use this equation to find the surface area of this half hemisphere. So 3 pi times the radius is 8, and we're going to square it, and our answer turns into, round off to the nearest square centimeter, of 603 centimeters. Now let's answer part B. What is the volume of the sphere, of the hemisphere, to the nearest tenth of a cubic centimeter? Let's take a look at the original equation for the volume of a sphere. It's 4/3 pi r cubed. And let's plug in the radius value of 8 in this. So we get 4/3 pi times 8 cubed. So we get a volume of the entire sphere of 2143.57 centimeters cubed. But since we're dealing with half a sphere, we're going to half, or we're going to divide by 2 to get the volume of half a sphere, which is, in this case, and round off to the nearest cubic centimeter, it is, in the nearest 10th centimeter, it is 1072.3 centimeters cubed.